Hello everyone, today I'm going to be making a new rattan sword. Armistice and Pennsic is coming up, so this sword, although it's still serviceable, it's starting to show some wear over here. And what I've actually done with this sword, because it started brooming, I actually retaped it once. Okay, then what was happening is because I don't put thrusting tips on here because I make use of a lot of tip cuts, right? So basically this area over here started getting pretty mushy. So what I did is I cut it down a little bit. Now I'm very particular about the balance and the speed that the swords move at. So when I cut about half an inch of tip off it, it changed the balance. So what I did is I basically wrapped it with more tape, which put a little bit more weight on the sword, so it brought it back into that balance. Okay, so generally, my swords are about 36 inches. Initially, I'll usually cut them to about 37. Okay, so I'll cut them to 37. What I'll do is I'll carve out the handle. I'm going to show you guys how I do that. I'll basically shave down the sides a little bit here to bring it to 1.25 inches. And I'll use these calipers here to make sure that it's basically at 1.25 inches. And basically I'll bring it right to that line, because what happens is when you put when you tape it, that adds extra thickness. So it'll bring it above that 1.25 inches. So that's all stuff that I factor into this. So what I'll do is I'll usually cut these to about 37. Which it's going to be the balance is going to be off. Then I'll basically start swinging it around, and then I'll cut it back to get to the balance and the speed that I want. So the length is the variable. Okay, I specifically want to get this sword to a very particular balance and a particular speed that I like to run at. So that's the variable that I play with, the length. Okay, so that's why, like, some swords might be 35.75 inches, some swords might be 36 inches, some swords might be 36.25 inches. Okay, now I generally don't use tips on the swords. I have used them over the years. When you put a tip on the sword, it changes the balance. So if I'm going to put a tip on the sword, I usually need to cut it back to about 35, maybe 34.5 inches to get it to that balance that I want. Now, there's a trade-off here. Okay, if you have a thrusting tip on your sword, yeah, great. You can make use of thrust, but what you lose is the tip cut, right? Where you're cutting down like this, and you're hitting with the tip. And that's something that I utilize a lot in my fighting style. So between having the ability to do thrusts or make tip cuts, I prefer to do tip cuts. So that's why I don't put thrusting tips on most of my swords. But that's the trade-off. You put a thrusting tip where you can thrust, but you can't do a tip cut, or you don't put one and now you can make tip cuts, but you can't thrust because of the rules. Okay. The baskets you buy, okay, definitely recommend you get the ones that basically, they clamp on. Don't get the hose clamp ones. Get the ones that clamp into place here. Some of the cheaper ones have like really large baskets, which basically that's extra weight. It can also hit stuff that you don't want being hit. So it took me a while to find. And this is when I first started fighting. We're going back now like 17 years. I did a little searching and I found 2 matching stainless steel baskets of the perfect size. Okay, and then you have to fit your demi gauntlets to the basket. Okay, because basically the basket is part of your armor. It protects your hand. So all these things have to fit together. Now, an important skill that you can have is knowing how to weld. Okay, because basically all armor breaks. With the amount of fighting that I do, even with these stainless steel baskets, Basically the welds, sometimes a weld will break. See if I can show you guys an example, like over here, it broke there. So I know how to weld. With stainless steel, basically you got to get like stainless steel flux core, right? And then you'll be able to weld these. So that's a very good skill to have, knowing how to weld, so you can make repairs on your baskets when they happen, or know somebody that knows how to weld. Okay. So what I want to show you guys is the tool that I will mostly be using. Okay, and that's going to be this angle grinder here, because that's going to save a whole lot of time. Now, if you look over here, that's the typical steel grinding wheel. We're going to remove that, and there's two wood carving wheels that I work with. Okay, and you can get these on Amazon. One is the one is with this curved one over here, right? And then the other one's the flat one. Okay, the curved one tends to take off a lot more material. Tends to take off material a lot faster. The flat one goes a little bit slower. When you're grinding the wood, if you want to keep it relatively flat, if you lift this up like this, it tends to like really deepen too deep and take a huge chunk of wood out, usually more than you want. So you just gotta be careful not to grind at that angle unless you really want to take out a lot of wood really fast. Keep it like at an angle like this when you're grinding, and then when you want to do some fine tuning, I'll switch to the flat one. These things aren't expensive. You can get these in 4-packs. They have different ones. You can get these on Amazon. Okay, just make sure that the hole here matches, your angle grinding. Okay, and these are, I mean, this is the DeWalt one. I mean, if you're using this just for carving your rattan wood, I mean, you don't have to get an expensive one. You could probably go to Harbor Freight and get one, because you're not going to be using it like every day. Okay. Now I use the same tool to basically, on my pole arms, right? You can see how I've shaved down the sides flat here, all the way down. So this would like take a really long time to do this if with anything else, and that allows me to basically know where my edge alignment is. And I have tried using belt sanders. The problem with belt sanders is they wear out really fast, and you're like just continually buying belts. So these things are metal here, so they really don't wear out at all against wood. A lot of times they'll market this as a stump grinder, right? So a lot of people will try to grind down stumps with these things, although I think it would take forever to do it with this. But yeah, it's an excellent tool that I use. Let me get that away. So I've got here a piece of rattan that I'm going to be using. So the thing with the rattan is, basically rattan is grass, right? It's a grass. So when it grows, you're generally going to have a thicker end and you're going to have a thinner end. So that's something that we kind of have to take into account, right? Because if you're making two swords like this, or they're not going to be exactly the same. We can kind of get them close to each other by shaving down the sides. So the one that's, let's say, a little bit thinner, right? I think at the far end here, it's pretty close to 1.25 inches. I'm going to do very little or no grinding on the sides here. But then when I get back to this side over here, I'm going to do a lot more grinding, and that will bring the two so that they're almost the same. Okay, so initially when I cut this, because we're gonna get 2 pieces of wood out of here. I've already cut this once. I already made one of those swords. Basically came off of this stave over here. So I can see I already cut this once. On this end over here, I can see this is the end that chipped. This wood over here looks like it's dry and old. So basically, I'm just going to cut off about 1 inch here and just completely discard it, okay? And then what I'm going to do is when I cut this, I'm going to favor, I'm going to put 37 inches on the thicker side, and then I'll cut the thinner side to 38 inches, right? And again, that gives me the ability, I mean, it's not going to stay there, right? That's going to be way too long for the way I want to move the sword. But, once I tape it up, start swinging it around, I'll be able to cut it back. And a lot of times I'll go to my first practice and I'll actually bring a battery powered saws, a saw with me, right? And what I'll do is, as I start swinging it around, if I see that it's not moving the way I want it to move, like right there at the practice, I'll just cut another 1/2 inch or 1/4 inch off of it. Okay. So first thing I want to do is let's cut off this dead end over here. Okay, let's get rid of that. So it really helps if you've got a vice clamp that has the basically a clamp in here for pipes. Okay, so the way I'm gonna clamp this, I'm gonna clamp it right there on the pipe holder. All right, so if you look over here, see, it's not actually, I'm not clamping it up here. I'm clamping it inside over there. Okay. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut off this this dead end over here. Just get rid of it. All right, so you're done. So I'm basically looking at it. I can see that this wood looks pretty good over here. So I'm going to go back to the fat end on this side. Let's do it outside of the. Let me measure out on the fat end. We're going to go 37 inches. Okay, like I said, I'm only going to want 36, but I'm going to start out with 37 inches, and then cut it down a little bit more later on, or after I make the sword, I'll cut it back down to wherever I need it. All right, so I marked this over here. Let's put this back in here. All right, so let's cut this right here at 37 inches. Put that on the side. All right, so we got 37 inches here. All right, so it's going to be about an inch longer than that. Okay, fine. So I don't recall if I mentioned it earlier. This sword over here, it started off at about 36 inches. It's pretty beat up. So I've already taped it once, right, when it started brooming. And then I was able to use it for a couple of more months. And then the tip over here, this area over here started getting really beat up. So what I did is I took like I cut it down another 1/2 inch so I can get to some good wood over here. Now, when I cut it down that 1/2 inch, it kind of threw the sword off balance. So the way I corrected that is I basically put more tape on the sword over here to bring it back to that balance that I like, as far as the type of, how I want it to balance, how I want it to rotate, and the type of speed that I want out of it. However, I find that once I make those type of corrections, it's never as good as if the sword is like brand new. Okay, so again, given that Armistice and Pennsic is coming up, I want to go with like brand new swords. Okay, so let's do this. Let's get this out of the basket. I think these are 1/2 inch. Is it 1/2 inch? Nope, a little bit bigger. Oh, actually, this is a 1/2 inch. That was something else. There we go. Okay, so yeah, these are 1/2 inch nuts. So the way it kind of works with this is, you see how the nuts go in there? So they kind of lock into place over there. So I don't have to hold the bolt from the other side. Okay, so we got this done. I have to open it a little bit more. Almost. There we go. Got it out. Okay. So actually, I'll give you guys a close look at this basket here. You can see how some of the welding reinforcements that I had to make, you know, over the 17 or so years that I've been using this, because where it cracked. I mean, they're not great welds, but hey, I mean, it keeps this thing running. Okay. So let me, now that this thing is out of the basket, give you guys a close-up of how this has been shaved down. Okay, so that allows me to have a good edge alignment. Okay, so the next thing I generally want to look at this, because sometimes these things will have like a slight, because rattan is never like perfectly straight. So I'll look at it. You know, basically I'll decide which end do I want forward, which end do I want back. So I'm actually, because this is the thin end, right? That's the thinnest end. The way this thing is kind of shaped, I'm thinking actually to put the handle on this side. I mean, I'll have to do a lot more shaving down on that side, but I think that's going to work. Yeah, it's going to work better for me, I think. I mean, we're talking about like minor. So I think we're going to shave it down like that. Let me get. So the next thing I want to do is because of the basket, you can see here, you know, because the cap of the basket inserts into the cap over here. So there's about an inch there, right? So I'm going to use the old sword to kind of mark where I'm going to be cutting, or rather the boundaries of my cutting. So right there. Actually, I'm going to bring it a little further up. Right to there. Okay, so those are right. So I'm going to be carving out between here, you know, this area over here. That's the area that I'm going to be carving out. So again, I want to look at this and see how do I want this thing. I want it like that. So I'm looking at the different, I'm looking at the different curves in the wood. I think I want it like that. So now what I'll do is make sure I'm still on the camera. Yeah, you guys can see. So I want to carve it here. So what I'll do is I will do that. Then this side here. Okay, so what I did is I kind of marked over here the front and the back. So I know that I'm carving out on this side and carving out. So basically I made these diagonal cuts, so I know that, okay, this side over here I'm not going to be cutting. All right, so now I have a good sense of what the up and down is. Okay, let me do this. I want to mark a complete circle all the way around. Okay. Yeah, it's really useful to have some type of have a pipe place where you can hold this in place. Yeah. All right. So the next thing we're gonna do is let's change this thing out over here. So this thing is not plugged in. Well. So I'm going to start off with this one over here because I want to take off a lot of material relatively quickly because I don't want to spend all day doing this. place. And usually I'll kind of give this a quick spin like that, so yeah, that's sitting fine. This would be a lot easier to work with if it was bolted down, but this works all right. Okay, so basically I'm just testing it out. Yeah, it comes off so fast and easy with that tool. So yeah, still a little bit too thick. Use the old stick as a comparison. Now this is probably a good idea at this point when you've taken it down this much to switch over to the flat one, which is gonna take it off a little bit more at a time, so there's less of a risk that you don't go too far. I've done it a bunch of times, and I've got plenty of rattan, so even if I do screw this up, I got another piece of rattan that I could use. That I'm going to go for speed, okay? So I'm going to stay with this wheel. And one of the things I'm paying attention to is like the two sides are like actually parallel to each other, and adjust accordingly, right? Because when you initially start doing this, they may not be perfectly, matched up, which is fine because you can fix it. Now this is the point where it's like really important that you keep this flat, right? You gotta, as you're grinding, you gotta keep this thing flat, because if you go like that, it's gonna take a huge chunk out of it, and it's gonna mess up your handle. So I was kind of feeling how this is, and I saw that, yeah, I got to come more to this side to level this off. Now you're going to be wearing a glove when you're fighting, so don't get too crazy with perfection. This is probably just about right. I can go down just a little bit more. So what I'm gonna start doing now is, like, you see the edges over here, like I'm gonna like just smooth out these edges so I don't have like these sharp edges over here. I mean, it just doesn't need to be there. And that actually just taking off these edges over here will make it fit into your hand a lot better, okay, without having to really shave it down any thicker, because right now it's about as thick as the other one. And it's mainly just taking off those edges. Perfect. Perfect. Now the other thing I'm going to do is, if you see over here, see how that's sticking out? Basically that's this thing over here. I'm just going to just smooth this out a little bit over here, just to make it more comfortable. It might seem like it's taking longer, but I'm actually applying a lot less pressure now because I'm fine tuning. So I've reduced the amount of pressure that I'm applying. But I'm just fine tuning now. Okay, that is good. Feels good. And one of the things, I mean, we're carving wood on something that's consumable. We're going to use it up. Eventually, it's going to turn into trash, like this one over here. So don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good, right? Don't just keep working at this thinking that you're going to get this ultra perfect, because you're going to end up going too far. So this is a really good point where it is right now. I can always come back to it after I put the basket on. Okay, let's see how thick this is. This was the thick end. So I'm going to shave down the sides. I'm pretty close to 1.25 inches. So I just got to take it down a little bit. It's gonna, by shaving down the sides, it's gonna reduce the weight a little bit, but the thickness is going to, you know, it's gonna become like a sword where it favors front to back, and the sides are a little bit thinner, right? Because normally when we're hitting with the edges, so that's where we want more meat. We don't need meat on the side. We just gotta stay within that 1.25 inch limit. So now I'm using the handle, right? The part that I shaved down, that's gonna guide me as far as like where I'm gonna shave down over here. Now, as you saw when I was grinding, the round wheel kind of pushed it off to the side and took a little bit of a nick over here. Not that it matters, but like I wouldn't want that down there where the handle is. Up here, I mean, there's plenty of meat. I can correct that. Also, the reason why you want to be grinding like close to your vise. I'll move it up a little bit like that. So I am just inside 1.25 inches, like right there. Okay, so what's going to happen is when I wrap this, right, because I'm going to put scrapping tape. First, I'm going to put scrapping tape around it, right, and then I'm going to put the duct tape over it. The strapping tape goes like this. The duct tape, you just put it in straight lines. If by chance you find out, let's say you go too far, well, you just put an extra piece of strapping tape on the sides, and that will correct it so that it brings them up to 1.25 inches, right? So if you're a little bit off, that's fine. You can still fix it with some duct tape. What I want to do is over here, I want to bring it back a little bit more over here. Let me see. And I'm using the old sword to see where. See this black tape over here? That's where my basket clamps onto. So I can go all the way down here. Let me mark that. Okay, so what I can do is I can bring this back. I'm gonna bring this back from here all the way to this line over here, because the more weight I can take off of the sides over here, the longer I'll be able to keep this sword and still have that same, you know, that same speed and that you know, the bounce that I want. All right, so got the handle over here, shaved down, and then we've got the sides of the sword over here also shaved down to 1.25 inches. Okay, so let's put it in the basket, see how it feels. Okay, now what I'm going to do is, like, because you don't want this thing rattling around there, so I'm going to put electric tape in there so that it's a lot more snug. Because the way this design is, works is it clamps on over here, but basically it just rests in there. I mean, there is a hole over here where you're supposed to put like a screw through here to hold it in place. However, over the years I found that screw just comes loose, so I don't bother with the screw in the back. I just make sure that it's nice and snug over here with the electric tape, and then I clamp it in the front. See if I can do this without taking it out of the basket. All right, so let's see if that's snug. Oh, we gotta put a little bit more tape in. Yeah, I got a lot more snug. I think I'll give it a little bit more electric tape. Let's just give it one more. Yeah, the reason why I'm not taking it out of the basket is because depending on the wood, sometimes it can be a little bit of a pain in the ass to get back in there or get it back out. So yeah, that's nice and snug. So I'm going to bring it a little bit closer to the edge. All right, that's snug. There we go. So now the thing I want to decide is which side do I want up and which side do I want down. Because the way that you cut it is not always the same. Let's try this side. See if this side feels more comfortable. Let's see if I like this side better. I mean, they feel about the same. Okay. When I put tape, yeah, I mean, this is way long, but I can feel that this gotta get cut. But this is a good starting point. Okay, let's tighten this up. Yep. All right, so one of the things I just noticed is I just broke that clamp. Here, let me show you guys what that is. Hold on, let me pause the camera. I overstretched it. Hold on. Okay, so when I bought these baskets, they didn't come with the top clamp, right? So what I use is a U-bolt, fastener, or or the back plate to a U-bolt. And what I do is I basically hammer this. I bend it around, and it goes into there. So this is pretty decent, pretty cheap. I think this thing's like $2 or something. I'm not gonna do that right now. I just want to get the balance of the sword right first. Okay, so like I said, this thing is like, yeah, that is way heavy. We definitely got to take an inch off of that because that feels way too heavy up there. I'm gonna go about an inch because I remember it was 37 inches. We're gonna go down. We're gonna take a full inch off of this thing. And a lot of times I'll go like a quarter, like a half inch, but I mean, it just felt so heavy, and I haven't even put tape on it, so it's like, all right, we're just taking a half inch off right off the bat off this thing. Oh, yeah, that feels a lot better. Okay, so once I tape it up, I still may want to take a quarter inch off of it, but like right now, I'm probably gonna have to take a quarter inch off of it, because if this thing is feeling good right now without any tape on it, it's probably gonna get a little too heavy once I put the tape on it. Let me do this. You see over here? See that? That's just extra wood that's like not helping me. It's just adding a little extra weight, and it's not helping the sword, be stronger or anything. So I'm just gonna take that off. So all I did was basically where those rings are. Okay, I don't want to take the skin off, because that skin actually protects the wood, and it makes it stronger. Okay. So again, the variable here is the length. If I need to shave this down a little bit more, I'll do it. So next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna tape this up. So we'll start with the strapping tape. So strapping tape is basically protects the wood. And then what I'll typically do is, like at this end over here, I'll go around twice. And then from there I'll start bringing it down. Now, if this was a really thin piece of rattan, what I would do is I would put another strapping tape around it, but this time I would go in the opposite direction. With this one over here, there's enough. I mean, there's enough wood there. I don't think I want to put any more. Probably going to have to come down a little bit. I don't think I'm gonna shave this down. I'm gonna cut this down anymore. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go to a practice this Saturday, and I'll bring this along. And if I see that it's not moving the way I want it to move, I'm just going to cut off a quarter inch. Okay, so now what I'm going to do, put the duct tape on it. So the purpose of the duct tape, basically this protects the strapping tape. It also makes the sword look nicer. So I make my swords yellow because if you look at my shield over there, those are my colors, so it kind of matches my colors. So I use yellow yellow tape, and I used black electric tape to mark the edge. So basically, I'm gonna go sideways first. So by going lengthwise, you're also saving on some weight, because if you take duct tape and you start curling it around like that, you're adding a lot of weight. Duct tape, you know, it's got some weight on it. So unless this feels ridiculous, I'm just going to leave that length right where it is. So remember, when you got armor on, it feels a little bit differently. So this feels like it might work. So like I said, when I go to my next practice, I'm going to have that circular straw. So if I need to cut it, I will cut it. And at this point where I'm at right now, it's just a question of taking a 1/4 inch off or not. If I don't want to take off that 1/4 inch, not so much because I want that extra length for range, but what happens is if I make the sword just a tad bit shorter, what it means is I have to put a tad bit more effort to make my cuts land. So it looks like it's 36 inches exactly. I'm adding 1/8 of an inch for the butt cap over here. So it's 36 and 1/8. So if I remove the width of the butt cap, I'm 36 inches exactly on the length of this sword. The blade is 28 inches. 28-inch blade. So like I said, I don't wanna if I like sometimes if I cut it a little bit too short, now I've got less mass at the end, which means I have to put more effort into, making my, I have to hit harder because I've got less mass moving. So there's a balance there. And like I said, I've been doing this long enough that I want it, I know exactly what I want, and I want to get it exactly there. Let's put the edge on this. When you put the edge on, you don't want to stretch it because then it will just pull back on itself. Just let it sit there. What did I do with that knife? Closed it. There it is, guys. The sword of Vassilis. Yeah, it's just going to be a question whether I keep that 1/4 inch there or not. And I'm not going to know until I actually fight people. The only thing I got to do now is I got to I got to replace this. I'll put this on there. That's you know, that's unique to the basket, so it's not even worth showing you guys in a video. It's just basically I just got to bend it around, put the bolts there, and basically it'll hold it in place. So yeah, drop some comments. Let me know what you guys think. If you got a different way of doing it, making your swords, let me know. But this has been the most efficient way I have found to shave down, you know, to carve the handles and shave down the sides to put a real edge on the rattan swords and stay at 1.25 inches. All right, so see with the tape how it's solidly 1.25 inches. Beautiful. Excellent. All right, drop some comments. Talk to y'all soon. I'll see you guys at either Armistice or Pennsic, or hopefully both. Hey everyone, I wanted to show you the type of sword that we are trying to replicate. So basically with this sword over here, it's got a balance point of about there, okay? It's pretty close, so you'll turn over pretty easy. It's a style that basically you can fight like a boxing style, okay? Where basically you're just kind of tightening up your core and pushing into the shots. That's not something that you can do with this sword, okay? So this type of sword, a little bit longer, a little bit more blade mass, okay? With this type of sword, you know, you have to use a lot more hips in order to power the shots. So this simulator over here replicates this type of a sword. Basically, it's a Type 14 sword, which is really great for like sword and shield combat. This type of a sword, a Type X, is really great for fighting from horseback, right? Because you got a little bit extra reach. You can, you know, reach down or reach across, right? If you got a shield here, you can reach over on the other side of the shield. So this is an excellent sword for fighting from horseback. However, that's not the type of fighting that I'm preparing for at Pennsic and Armistice. So I want a sword that basically replicates this over here. So put it on the scale. It came in at 2 pounds, 14 ounces. And generally I want to be between 2 pounds, 12 ounces and 2 pounds, 14 ounces. Okay, so you know, over many years having built lots of swords, and I always weighed them, like 2 pounds, 14 ounces is pretty much the max that I want to be at. And like I said, I have a feeling that I may end up taking about a 1/4 inch off of the tip, all right, which will probably bring the weight down to about, 2 pounds, probably 13 ounces, you know, maybe even 2 pounds, 12 ounces. So just if I take a 1/4 of it off. So those ounces really matter, you know, especially when that, you know, when you have like a little like ounce, an extra ounce way at the end over here that you gotta move. Okay, so anyway, I just wanted to show you the type of sword that I was simulating here.